From Asia Society Switzerland, this is State of Asia. I'm your host, Remco Tanis. Today we're talking Nepal with none other than Indira Ranamagar, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives of the Himalayan country. Indira started her career as a primary science and maths teacher in village schools in the southeast of Nepal. For well over 30 years now, though, she's been a prolific human rights and social worker. In 2000, she founded Prisoners Assistance Nepal, or PA Nepal, an NGO which works to give children whose parents are imprisoned an education and a roof over their heads. In 2022, she took her social work from the streets to parliament, being elected to Nepal's House of Representatives on behalf of a brand new political party. Since January 2023, she serves as the Deputy Speaker of the House and, as such, has a seat on the 6-person strong Constitutional Council of Nepal as well. Back in 2007, Indira was named an Asia 21 Young Leader by the Global Network of Asia Society. And 2 years after that, her NGO PA Nepal received the Asia Society Asia 21 Public Service Award. In 2017, Indira was the first Nepali to feature on the BBC's list of the 100 most influential women in the world. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you, Honorable Deputy Speaker Indira Ranamagar, to State of Asia.
Namaskar.
I wanted to start by asking you about the recent protests in Kathmandu demanding the restoration of the monarchy and the Hindu state. Nepal became a secular republic in 2008 after Parliament abolished the monarchy as part of a peace deal that ended a decade-long civil war. These protests, the protesters demand a restoration of the monarchy. Many Nepalis, they say, have grown frustrated with the republic, saying it failed to bring political stability and blaming the struggling economy on the current system. What can you tell us about what's going on and what is the impact of these protests in Nepal at the moment?
As I understood, democracy, everybody has a right to speak, isn't it?
Mhm.
Everyone is a different, the people has a different philosophy, principle, it doesn't matter, so one time we are fed up with the monarchy, yeah. Sometime, when the people, what they dream about it after monarchy, maybe there is a, lot of freedom, maybe good life, it might be that they are not getting it. So sometime, what happened, when the outburst and frustration brings the revelation. I don't think it's exactly like a revelation coming. It's a demonstration, little bit. We have a right to speak. Before we didn't have a right to speak. Now we have a democracy to speak out, isn't it? But I don't think, it's of course we have a lot of problem, but when it's something changing, you can see the blast. Before a lot of thing it is hiding. So people could not speak and people could not express, and then this way the all over the world can see that, because we have a right to speak, a right to do demonstration.
You were elected to the House of Representatives in the last elections in November 2022.
Yeah.
2 months later, in January 2023, you were elected as the Deputy Speaker of the House.
Yes.
You were elected with a political party that was formed only just before that election in November 2022, right? And
Yeah, very new party, and then all the people are very professional. Some are journalists, some are doctors, and some are social workers, some are business people.
during that last election campaign, your party as well, you used the hashtag No Not Again, protesting what you saw as the old elites.
Aramco, now I have to resign the party. So I was in a party RSP, but now as a deputy speaker, my place is a very honorable place. So I have to be a neutral for everyone.
But during that campaign, though, which used the hashtag No Not Again back in November 2022, and which saw over 80% of members of parliament elected in that election were new members of parliament. So that's a huge input of fresh views that came into Nepal's parliament. Now that we're 18 months, almost 2 years later, what has that led to?
I think it's a changing. When you see something in a changing, it sometimes it looks like a blast, But I think this is also positive. People are now speak their frustration. Unstable government is making us difficulties. That's a challenge for the development. But we have a lot of possibilities for the development of Nepal. The first thing, we have a natural resources, which is we have in second in the all around the world. So we are very lucky to have, but only we need to manage, organize this proper way. But I see still there is a positive part. So our government, they try to plan, how to develop Nepal, how to bring back to our young people who are working in the outside of country, how to invest the money for the job opportunity for the young people. And we are trying to do like startup business, development business also. That's our new plan. So I see a lot of positive things also. is we can't see only the demonstration in the
Mm.
street, so a lot of people are working on it. We have water resources. Of course, climate change makes us a lot of difficulties, and that also we need to fix. We need to see the alternative, how to protect our environment, how to reduce all pollution, and then how to find the alternative, like energy. That's a solar panel. We are trying to talk about that. Recently we are debating about the different agreement with the different countries, with the India, China, so we need to respect the both the neighborhood country, because we are between, the beautiful sandwich, isn't it? That's
You mentioned a lot of things that I'd love to talk more about. The climate change, your position as Nepal between India and China. First, though, you mentioned just now the issue of young people needing to come back to Nepal who are now working abroad. That's one of the issues, of course. There's this huge youth unemployment. I believe 60% of people in Nepal are under 30, so that's a tremendously young population.
48% young population we do have, but our problem challenges is that 300 3,000 young people are every day they're leaving the country, and that's our big challenge.
3,000 a day.
And we tried pushing the government, how can we hold these young people, and then how do we bring back to the other young people who leave other country, and give them some subsidy about that, to start a business, to create them good environment for them, to invest their own country and to do something, find the job opportunity in our own country. We are trying to plan the budgeting for those young people who did a master degree. They can go work as a volunteer, and we pay them. We try to find out a different way to hold them.
Right now, 25 to 30% of Nepal's GDP is coming from the remittances that migrant workers send back home. And I even read, and that was maybe a bit more worrying, even that recently the Nepalese government had asked Russia to not recruit Nepalese anymore into that country's army. There have even been Nepalese joining Wagner. And then a few years before, we had a lot of Nepalese people working in Qatar, building the facilities for the World Cup there under very difficult circumstances. You say that we are working on solutions, trying to get people to come back. Are those solutions sufficient to replace that huge portion of the GDP that is now dependent on these people going abroad and working?
We have a lot of challenges. We are focusing like a political transformation. We are more focusing, and that's our also biggest challenge, on stable government. We try to do a lot of investment for young people, to hold them in our own country. Regarding development, we our mountain, we have a big mountain, and we are making our road is the wrong way. We because every time, the summer and the landsliding, because we make the road, wrong way. So we try to focus with to make like a tunnel. We don't have a technician, the like a, who has a tunnel expert, and we have to bring from China. What do we try to do that? We start to create, a civil engineering, like a tunnel skill who can work in the tunnel. Yeah, of course we need to have a road. In Nepal we have a lot of facilities, but we don't have a proper road to reach out, and we are trying to invest money for also education, pre-education. It goes a long time. If we invest the education for young people, we invest for 100 years, isn't it? So that's also our plan, and education is the most important for the development. We need to organize water system, irrigation, and electricity system.
You mentioned earlier Nepal's unique location wedged between India and China. We're also seeing a lot of India and China, especially China and also the United States, talking to Nepal, offering assistance in, for example, building infrastructure. Especially China is busy with that. Can you just tell me a little bit about what is it like? Because Nepal is traditionally a non-aligned country. What is it like to be wedged between these two superpowers, India and China, and how are both of them dealing with Nepal and approaching you and asking things of you?
I think our challenge is because when we like listen to China, India doesn't like. We listen to India, they doesn't like. But we need to be a middle. We need to bring the balance. We are they are neighbor country, and we have a long history both country. If we need to bring the balance, we have to be friend both sides. We need to listen both sides, but we need to have an independent decision ourselves. I think so. I'm not a like a old politician. I don't know how it working, because I'm learning. As I understood and as I experienced myself, I like to be a friend in a both country, and they should also understand that we cannot
Mm.
like bring the peace and the development, if we.
Trying to find that balance or keeping that balance. Traditionally, India is always the largest trading partner for Nepal, and then China is by far the largest foreign investor. And now the United States came around as well about 1.5 years ago with their Millennium Challenge cooperation package worth half a billion US dollars. How does that influence Nepal? What kind of impact does that have?
But I told you that we are depending with the remittance and other help from the other country, and of course some we take as a loan, some we can take like a without loan. People come to do the hiking, trekking, tourism, and one thing amazing. Recently 70,000 people visited in Nepal, and that's amazing for Nepal. So there is a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, what happened? The people come all around the world, and they should understand also the climate change. They should support. This is kind of climate change affect all over the world, isn't it? Snow is melting. People love to come here, visit here, so they need to also protect our country, and that's everyone's duty, isn't it? And that also big challenge. Nepal, we bringing more like things from outside, and 2% is we are exporting, and then all we are import from the other country, and other country get the opportunity to the market in Nepal, and we are not compete with the other country. It's a lot of things we are losing in being a least development country. So it's still we need to claim other country also about the subsidy.
You come from Japa district.
I was born in Jalpa district. It was a big jungle before, and now is cultivated.
The Japa is about 400 kilometers away from Kathmandu, right? It's quite
Yeah.
remote. Can you tell me a little bit, describe a little bit, what are the people who still live there? How are they going through daily life? What kind of changes have they seen in the past few years?
In Japa is near to the border side of India, West Bengal, Siliguri. And it was a big jungle. Now it's still jungle. And then we have a problem with the elephant, attacking, because there's no more big jungle now, But the Japa is a one beautiful place, where in the mountain area we can produce, tea and coffee, a lot of, alaichi. It's called, I don't know, it's exactly meaning in the English because we call alaichi, and ginger, anything we produce, a lot of organic food, and it's still a lot of places is that they are maintaining like some expert, the who are working for biodynamic export and permaculture export, and they try to make the whole village is a organic village, and not to use the chemical, and so that also one our potential to export to the other country. That's what we try to do. And Japa is a more plain area, so we can produce rice and wheat. There also cities are growing fast, bigger and bigger. But it's more people are there, more educated, because it's a mixed people come from India. Some are Acham, Darjeeling, everything is near there. So when I was a child, it was a big jungle. I grew up in a jungle girl.
Yeah, and one of the things I was thinking of when looking at Japa a little bit, you've been fighting for bringing IT to women in remote areas, right?
Yeah.
Nepal, of course, has many remote areas, and you spoken before about the investments needed to bring IT to women in remote areas, from basic electricity to actually the internet lines. What can you tell me about the challenges these women face in these remote areas, and how IT is going to help them?
A lot of places is still no electricity, so it's difficult. Even like in Kathmandu, sometime we have a load setting, so it's a big challenge we have, but we're trying our best. Every village should have this kind of provision, or some like the political local leaders, they should have access for mobile and all these things, because there is a big discrimination. People produce a lot of they do farming and they work hard, and the real people, they don't get the good price. If they have a IT and in head digital technology access, so they can get easily, how much price is it, isn't it? And this is a really good for the local people, especially farmer women, to empower them, to bring the awareness for them about their rights. They spend whole life and work hard, and then the food goes very cheaper way, and then a broker, they have no knowledge, and they have no access for information. So that's really needed, and digital technology is must needed for them.
At the beginning of our conversation, you referred a little bit to how the country is trying to get young people to stay or to come back, and to offer them also proper education. That got me thinking. Years ago, I believe in the year 2000, you started Prisoners Assistance Nepal. That was an organization, or still is an organization, that provides shelter and education for children of prisoners. Could you talk a little bit about why did you start that organization back then, and how's the situation now? Is currently the government taking over those responsibilities to care for these children and offer them an and education, or is the NGO still mostly needed for that?
Yeah, this is actually I to join in politics, because I seen that, I work 34 years, and still they are not investing money for the children. That's why I talk in the beginning, education is most important to, if we invest the money for the young people and for their, development whole things, like a nutrition food, and then we can invest for the 100 years, isn't it? For the new generation, that's the idea. The when I see the lot of people inside the prison, and a lot of normal poor people were inside the prison, when I visited and all over the around the world, I've been many prison in even the Europe, America, I visited there. So everywhere I see the more like who are the people are inside, who has a no opportunity, who are like a minority group, those people are in prison, who didn't get the opportunity. It's not only question of Nepal only. And when I was young, then I see the in prison, a lot of women were in prison, even they don't know which case they were in prison. And high social stigma is highly attached to it, and especially with children, they call them, they are criminal children, and they are not getting any education, not any, and they are hated by the society, so that's why I felt that, my heart was broken, and then I began my work to support these children. And still I take care of these kids. And now, we have a lot of juvenile offenders, but the government are not functioning well. They are not giving proper budget to them. And I'm bringing this issue also. Recently, we have a lot of demonstration inside the juvenile offenders in prison, fight, and some young people die. They're young people. When the young child, they fall down many times, and they know how to stand and how to walk, isn't it? And young people, same thing. Young juvenile people, sometimes they are young blood. They don't know it's they have a, like a kind of blind, power. Sometimes they do mistake, but they learn. But our legal system is really bad for the young people. And they, one time, they if they are go, legally they are in prison, so they don't get access for even they study higher study high, they have a good degree, they don't get a government job. They cannot join in politics. So really, I'm as a mother, I'm really thinking very seriously. I think we need to give a second chance for them, and that bring also one kind of outburst frustration for the young people. That's why they're leaving the country also. But when I'm in here, I'm bringing this dialogue to the around my parliamentarian. So this is something, before they don't listen, I shout only from the street. But now something good, I can bring them, I can bring this dialogue around them.
Just looking at a map, I see Nepal, I see Switzerland. They're both landlocked countries with a lot of mountains. Yet I can imagine that on the mind of Nepal, of Nepal's government, Switzerland doesn't really feature very strongly, being so remote, and Nepal also just being right there between two huge countries, China and India. Is there any link between Switzerland and Nepal because they have geography in common in the way that they're landlocked and have mountains?
Yeah, some places, our leaders, they say we need to make Switzerland for Nepal. I've been many times in Switzerland, on all the part of the Switzerland I have been there. And many things I already mentioned that, the when we break the mountain and make the road, but this is not good. Switzerland have a small road, and then they have a so many road, to access, it doesn't have to break the whole mountain. The Nepal problem is we are doing just opposite. Switzerland has even the train go under the tunnel. Even the in the train, so kind of train I visited there, we put our car inside the train, and then we don't have to drive. The train took us under the tunnel. So many it's I mean, we it's good to dream. I dream about it. If we understand, if we visited Switzerland, and then we try to somehow little bit, we good practices from Switzerland, we can practice here. That would be very nice. But many things we need to change. We need to focus. We need to make new law. New bills. Many people has a no trust with the law here. We have a law. We don't have we have a many law. We have a many bills also, but law is changing. The when the new government come and they change it. So, and people do not have a trust, and that's the biggest challenge, our trust. So what happened tomorrow? People are afraid to invest here. We don't have a big investment. No country, they're investing a lot. Like the many countries, around the world, they're investing in India. We don't have an investment that much. People are afraid. So I think we need to correct ourselves, the like a strong law, and it's good for the investment. And even our Nepali people who lives around the world, they can also invest, and so we are bringing dialogue about it also.
You, in your position as Deputy Speaker of the House, you're absolutely right, I think, saying that it's good to dream big and have big visions, but it's also just daily nitty gritty work to take slow steps towards those dreams. Can you give me an example? What steps are you taking that will help you eventually to get to that dream?
Actually, as a deputy speaker, I'm a member of the our constitutional council. Six biggest people, prime minister is a chairperson, and I'm a member, and our chief justice is a member, a speaker member, and our upper house chairperson is a member. So I have a lot of power to decision, give the decision to choose the right place. But the problem is we have the big party, they sometimes they decide themselves. Sometimes I'm a rubber stamp also, as I say honestly, yeah. But I'm a member of parliamentarian member, the public choose me to send here, so I have some responsibility. So I can go and I visit in different area of my countries, and where is a lacking, if there is a problem in the education, if there is a problem in the road, whatever, I bring I give the recommendation to the different ministry. That's also I do beside that. And I'm try to do the empowerment for the parliamentarian people, and doing workshop. That also I try to do. I don't have a very full right, not written well, so I'm also fighting for that. Anyway, as a woman, I'm fighting for the women. We are not getting this opportunity. We're fighting for that also. And women to women, we can fight. Women should be elected, and then they have a right to speak out. Independent women should be come in a parliament and they speak out without fear, with being fearless, being bold, being outspoken. This is the thing I'm bringing in my country, fighting for every day these things. I tell you one thing, proudly, still Nepali people, we have a hard life. They can carry porter, they, work hard in the field, and they even they can, sometimes they, strive, like with a piece of bread, but it's still they're surviving, not depending with the government. We are independent, and we not just need like a support to system, to bring the system in our country. And we need a good investment, not to depending the any country want to support Nepal, they invest the money to uplift ourselves, to teach them to how to fish, not to, giving the fish. That's I want. And that's the support we need from other country. We have a lot of natural resources. We can uplift very fast, and our people work very hard. So anything you can see like a small demonstration, but this happen. That's a democracy, and it has to.
Honorable Deputy Speaker Indira Rana, thank you very much for joining us on State of Asia. It was a great pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much, Nepko.
I'm joined now by my colleagues Nico Lutzinger and making her debut on State of Asia, Rebecca Farner, who is, among many other things, our in-house expert on Nepal, having been there in what year exactly?
2014.
Going into my conversation with Indira, I had all these questions on my mind about what's it like to help run a country that's wedged between China and India and all these geopolitical things. And she just consistently went back to, yeah, but first let's build roads, let's get electricity, let's get water.
Yes, I mean, if you still have to walk for 2 or 3 days until you're getting to the next bus station and have to carry up rice and just basic things you need every day for several days by foot, or just having yaks to help you carrying it, you might not think as much about China and India as we do here in Switzerland.
I found that answer of hers at the end striking, that she said, we want investments, we want help with building tunnels, and we need engineering from China because they're the ones offering it now. If somebody else offers, I'm sure they'll also take it, but nobody else apparently is offering in the way that China is. Nico, what was your impression of what Indira told us about Nepal?
Well, I'm a geopolitics and foreign policy guy, so of course I picked up on Nepal's very special location and how that sort of influenced its politics. You mentioned it already, sort of wedged between India and China. And it strikes me, by the way, that we have a bit of a streak here, because your last conversation on this podcast, Remco, was on Mongolia, which we actually looked at a map before and we're pretty sure that maybe with the exception of Bhutan, those are the only two countries that are actually wedged between two superpowers. So it's just interesting to consider the dynamics. And maybe reacting to your question to Rebecca and what Rebecca said, I do think it's important to remind ourselves that, this is the reality in Nepal, and education is important. I really like that she kept going back to that. Infrastructure is important. But of course, as you already alluded to, there's a geopolitical and a foreign policy dimension to these issues as well, because somebody's going to have to come in and build the roads and the tunnels. And the other thing, I think, she didn't say this explicitly, but from experience, I think we tend to interpret this specific location that Nepal has kind of like this, wedged between as a big problem. And she says something to the effect of, like if we talk to the Chinese, then the Indians don't like that. If we talk to the Indians, the Chinese don't like it. We have to do this balancing game. That's certainly true. That's a challenge, but it can also be an opportunity, right? You have these two big powers. And I think it's especially true in the Indian case, where Nepal and India are historically so close. There's an open border. There's so much exchange. But in a way, I think the problem for India is also that it kind of maybe takes Nepal almost for granted. And Nepal can needle India a little bit by trying to go the other way just to show that it has options. And again, then for China, that's a good way to challenge India. So in a way, Nepal has, especially because it's between two superpowers who are currently not the best relationship, it actually does have probably quite a bit of influence. And I think it's interesting to think about that. Just because it's a relatively small and relatively poor country doesn't mean it's powerless at all.
It's a bit of the same game that China is playing in the Maldives, of which India probably also thought for years, it's their backyard, nobody else will bother us here. And here we have China just taking over the Maldives pretty much, to put it very bluntly. But Rebecca, also like 3,000 people a day choose to migrate from Nepal and go work somewhere else, sometimes very difficult, even in the Russian army fighting in Ukraine. When you were there, what kind of atmosphere did you feel from Nepali people? Because this sounds pretty desperate, that so many people choose to leave. On the other side, Indira at the end says, we're a strong people, we work hard, and we don't want just handouts. We want to learn how to build tunnels, for example, or how to do this so that we can do it ourselves. Keep all these young people in our country as well. Is that something you see happening?
Not sure if it's the same today as 10 years ago, but back then, what I clearly saw that in the countryside, so I've been to a valley in the Himalayas, and there they all wanted to leave for Kathmandu because there are no roads, there are no infrastructures, the education is bad. And I've trekked with two Nepali guys that were about the same age as I was back then, so about 24 years old. And they both wanted to leave for Kathmandu because there are just much more opportunities there. I assume what's happening now is that Kathmandu can't host all of those young people, so they're going abroad, I guess.
What also struck me, and read up a little bit on this after listening to your conversation with Indira Remco, is that there are currently protests in Nepal to bring the monarchy back, which I'm sure it's not the first time in history somewhere there have been protests to bring a monarchy back, but it's a somewhat unusual thing. Rebecca, when you were there, I think the monarchy had already been abolished, but it hadn't been too long. Do you remember anything? And also, can you explain why they want their king back? He seems to have been quite authoritarian.
I guess they hoped things would change faster. It's less than 20 years ago that the Civil War ended. And it has taken them another about 10 years, I think, to come up with a constitution. So it takes time. And with also some struggles in between, I mean, mentioning just one of them, the big earthquake in 2015. I assume the pandemic didn't stop at the border of Nepal as well. People want to see change, and it's not going as fast as they want it to happen. And then, of course, you're looking to other leadership.
The protests, as Indira said, well, that's democracy for you, and we used to not be able to do that, so it's good that it's happening now.
And also, it was a Hinduist kingdom, but Nepal's diversity, both in geography and in culture, is huge, especially for the size of the country, which probably makes it hard for a democracy to lead all of those minorities and to have everyone speak up in the parliament, which of course is a great chance and is important that they do it, but it also comes with challenges. In the conversation, you also talked about comparing Nepal to Switzerland. And fun anecdote I remember is with one of the Nepali guys I was traveling with. He told me, so we were going to his hometown in the Tsum Valley, and before we arrived there, he told me that a Swiss guy once told him, "Oh, it looks like Grindelwald." And he's not that wrong. It kind of looks similar, but I think the biggest difference is the altitude, of course. It's 2,000 meters higher up, and the infrastructure. There are no roads.
And that does it for this episode of State of Asia. About a year ago, we hosted a webcast on Nepal, part of our series A Closer Look. It features a great conversation with Suman Yoshi, widely regarded as one of the most innovative banking experts in Nepal, who is working on improving the ecosystem for alternative investments in the country. It's a fast but deep dive into a lot more of Nepal. I'll put a link to the video in the show notes. As always, be sure to visit our website asiasociety.org/Switzerland for all information on the many events and activities we organize. That's where you'll also find a link to sign up for our weekly newsletter, find out how to become a member, and more about other ways to support us. One way to do that is take a quick minute and leave a rating for this podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We'll be back soon. My name is Remco Tanis. Thanks for listening.